Hello, and welcome. My name is Parvez Khan, and I want to share some stories with you today. When we think about the great figures of American history, certain names immediately come to mind: George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Martin Luther King Jr. Their faces are etched into our national memory, their stories told and retold in classrooms across the country. They are, without a doubt, giants who shaped the nation. But history is a vast and intricate tapestry, woven with countless threads, many of which have been overlooked, tucked away, or simply forgotten. Beyond these celebrated figures lies a legion of unsung heroes whose contributions were just as profound, whose courage was just as fierce, and whose impact continues to ripple through our lives today, even if we don't know their names. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on some of those hidden stories. We'll journey into the past to meet the brave men and women who defied expectations, challenged injustice, and altered the course of American history, yet somehow never found their way into our standard textbooks. These are not just historical footnotes, they are deeply emotional, powerful, and eye-opening accounts of resilience and determination that deserve to be brought into the light. Prepare to be inspired by tales of incredible bravery, from the dark roads of the Revolutionary War to the segregated buses of the Jim Crow South. These are the stories that complete the picture of who we are as a nation. I invite you to join me on this journey of discovery. If you believe these stories are as important as I do, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Your support helps us continue to unearth and share these powerful American legacies. And don't forget to comment below as we go. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Now, let's begin with a hero whose midnight ride was twice as long and arguably more dangerous than Paul Revere's, yet her name is known by so few. Let's talk about the incredible Sybil Ludington. On a cold, rainy night in April of 1777, a messenger arrived at the Ludington home with dire news. British troops were burning Danbury, Connecticut, a crucial supply depot for the Continental Army. Colonel Henry Ludington, the commander of the local militia, needed to rally his scattered men, but the messenger was too exhausted to continue. Who could possibly ride through 40 miles of treacherous, bandit-infested territory in the dead of night? His 16-year-old daughter, Sybil. With nothing but a stick to prod her horse and knock on doors, she set off into the darkness, her voice crying out, "The British are burning Danbury! Muster at Ludington's!" She rode twice the distance of Paul Revere, through a storm, alerting hundreds of soldiers who would march to repel the British forces. Her courage was extraordinary, her impact undeniable. Sybil's ride allowed her father's militia to gather and engage the British, a small but significant act in the larger fight for independence. General George Washington himself traveled to the Ludington home to thank her personally for her heroism. And yet, while every schoolchild knows the name Paul Revere, Sybil Ludington's incredible feat has been largely relegated to a footnote. Her story is a powerful reminder that heroes come in all forms and ages, and that true bravery isn't always followed by fame. She was a young woman who answered the call of duty without hesitation, a patriot whose legacy deserves to be celebrated alongside the most revered figures of the Revolution. In the untamed wilderness of the American West, where lawlessness was rampant, one man became a legend. His name was Bass Reeves. Born into slavery in 1838, Reeves escaped during the Civil War and lived among Native American tribes, learning their languages and tracking skills. After the Emancipation Proclamation, he became one of the very first black United States deputy marshals west of the Mississippi River. For over 3 decades, he was the most feared lawman in the Indian Territory, a vast and dangerous land. He was a master of disguise, an expert marksman, and a man of unshakable integrity, known for bringing in his prisoners alive. He couldn't read or write, but he would have someone read him the warrants, and he'd memorize everyone. Over his career, Bass Reeves arrested more than 3,000 dangerous outlaws, a staggering number for any lawman of any era. He was ambushed, shot at, and hunted, but he never wavered. In a testament to his character, he even arrested his own son for murder, choosing his duty to the law over his feelings as a father. Many historians believe his incredible life, his silver white horse, his use of disguises, his Native American companion, and his silver dollar calling card, served as the primary inspiration for the fictional character of the Lone Ranger. Reeves was a true American hero, a symbol of justice and perseverance who rose from the bonds of slavery to become one of the most effective and respected lawmen in history. Imagine a world where your community is ravaged by diseases like tuberculosis and influenza with no doctor for miles. This was the reality for the Omaha tribe in the late 19th century, but from within this community rose a woman who would shatter barriers and bring healing to her people. Susan La Flèche Picotte. Witnessing the suffering caused by a visiting white doctor who refused to treat a sick Omaha woman, a young Susan vowed to become a physician herself. It was a seemingly impossible dream for a Native American woman at the time, but her determination was relentless. She excelled in her studies and, in 1889, graduated first in her class from the Woman's Medical College of Pennsylvania, becoming the first Native American female doctor in the United States. Returning to the Omaha Reservation, Dr. La Flèche Picotte became the sole physician for over 1,300 people across a sprawling 450 square miles. She made house calls in her horse-drawn buggy, day and night, through blizzards and floods, treating illnesses and advocating for public health. She campaigned tirelessly for sanitation, hygiene, and temperance, understanding that prevention was as crucial as a cure. Her life's work culminated in her ultimate dream, building a modern hospital for her community in Walt Hill, Nebraska, which opened shortly before her death in 1915. She was more than a doctor. She was a leader, an advocate, and a beacon of hope who dedicated her entire life to the well-being of her people. When fear and prejudice grip a nation, it takes immense courage to stand up and declare that a wrong is a wrong, no matter who commits it. In the wake of the attack on Pearl Harbor, President Franklin D. Roosevelt issued Executive Order 9066, authorizing the forced removal and incarceration of over 120,000 Japanese Americans. Most complied, stunned and scared. But Gordon Hirabayashi, a senior at the University of Washington and a Quaker, refused. He believed the order violated the U.S. Constitution. He defied the curfew imposed on Japanese Americans, and then refused the order to report for evacuation, turning himself in to the FBI instead to create a test case. His principled stand was a lonely one. He argued that his rights as an American citizen were being stripped away based solely on his ancestry. His case, Hirabayashi versus United States, went all the way to the Supreme Court in 1943, which unanimously ruled against him, upholding the government's actions as a military necessity. He was imprisoned for his defiance. For decades, his conviction stood as a stain, but Hirabayashi never gave up his fight for justice. Finally, in the 1980s, newly discovered evidence revealed that the government had deliberately suppressed intelligence showing that Japanese Americans posed no threat. In 1987, his conviction was overturned. Gordon Hirabayashi's story is a powerful testament to the fight for civil liberties and the courage to follow one's conscience, even when standing alone against the tide of history. The name Harriet Tubman is synonymous with the Underground Railroad, and rightly so. She was the Moses of her people, a conductor of unparalleled courage who led hundreds to freedom. But that incredible chapter of her life is only part of her story. When the Civil War erupted, Tubman's fight for freedom didn't end. It evolved. Her intimate knowledge of the Southern landscape, her skills in stealth, and her network of contacts made her an invaluable asset to the Union Army. She served as a nurse, a scout, and most remarkably, a spy. Working behind enemy lines, she gathered crucial intelligence about Confederate supply lines, troop movements, and strategic positions. Her most stunning military achievement came in June 1863 with the Combahee River Raid in South Carolina. Tubman herself helped plan and lead the operation. She guided Union gunboats through treacherous, torpedo-laden waters, using her intelligence network to navigate the river and locate Confederate encampments. The raid was a resounding success. It freed more than 750 enslaved people, destroyed Confederate supply depots, and struck a major psychological blow to the Confederacy. Harriet Tubman is the only woman in U.S. history known to have led a military expedition during the Civil War. Her role as a military leader and spy showcases a dimension of her heroism that is often overlooked, proving she was not just a liberator, but a brilliant military strategist as well. Much like Gordon Hirabayashi, Fred Korematsu was an ordinary citizen who found himself in an extraordinary moral crisis. In 1942, this 23-year-old Japanese-American welder from Oakland, California, made a life-altering decision. When the U.S. government ordered all people of Japanese descent on the West Coast to report to internment camps, Korematsu refused. He stayed behind with his Italian-American girlfriend, underwent minor plastic surgery to alter his appearance, and claimed to be of Spanish and Hawaiian descent. He simply wanted to continue living his life as an American. His defiance was not born of a grand political strategy but from a fundamental belief that he had done nothing wrong. He was eventually arrested and convicted of defying the government's order. Represented by the ACLU, his case, Korematsu versus United States, became one of the most infamous in Supreme Court history. In a 6-3 decision, the court sided with the government, a ruling now widely condemned as one of its greatest errors. Korematsu's conviction haunted him for decades. For years he remained silent about his past, ashamed of the legal battle he had lost. But like Hirabayashi, his story found redemption. In 1983, his conviction was formally overturned in federal court after proof of governmental misconduct came to light. Fred Korematsu's quiet act of resistance evolved into a lifelong fight for justice, reminding us that even in defeat, a stand for what is right can echo through generations and ultimately inspire change. 9 months before Rosa Parks' historic act of defiance on a Montgomery bus, a 15-year-old girl made the same brave choice. Her name was Claudette Colvin. On March 2, 1955, while riding a crowded city bus home from school, the driver ordered her and 3 other black students to give up their seats to a white passenger. The other students moved, but Claudette refused. She had been studying black history in school, learning about figures like Harriet Tubman and Sojourner Truth. And she felt a surge of indignation. She said, "It's my constitutional right to sit here as much as that lady. I paid my fare, it's my constitutional right." She was forcibly arrested, handcuffed, and thrown in jail. Her act of defiance was a spark. Local civil rights leaders, including a young Martin Luther King Jr., initially considered using her case to challenge segregation laws. However, they ultimately decided against it, concerned that as an unmarried, pregnant teenager from a poor neighborhood, she wouldn't be the ideal symbol for their cause. They worried the press would focus on her personal life rather than the injustice. So, they waited for a more respectable plaintiff, who came 9 months later in Rosa Parks. Though Colvin was sidelined from the spotlight, she was one of the 4 brave plaintiffs in Browder versus Gale, the landmark court case that ultimately ruled Montgomery's segregated bus system unconstitutional. Claudette Colvin's story is a crucial, often forgotten prequel to the Montgomery bus boycott, a testament to the raw courage of a young woman who refused to be invisible. During the American Revolution, the call to fight for independence was answered by thousands of men. But, the desire for liberty was not exclusive to one gender. Meet Deborah Sampson, a young woman from Massachusetts who was so determined to serve her country that she disguised herself as a man to enlist in the Continental Army. Binding her chest and adopting the name Robert Shirtleff, she joined the 4th Massachusetts Regiment in 1782. For over a year she fought with distinction, enduring the harsh conditions of military life and proving herself to be a capable and brave soldier. Her secret was her constant burden. She was wounded twice in battle. The first time she was slashed in the head with a sword. The second time she was shot twice in the thigh. Fearing discovery by a surgeon, she allowed doctors to treat her head wound, but secretly extracted one of the musket balls from her own leg with a penknife and sewing needle, which honestly is an act of almost unbelievable fortitude. The second ball remained in her leg for the rest of her life. Her identity was finally revealed only when she contracted a fever and was taken unconscious to a hospital. Upon her recovery, she was honorably discharged by General Henry Knox. After the war, she fought for years to receive recognition and a pension for her service, a battle almost as difficult as the one she faced on the field. Deborah Sampson shattered the conventions of her time for a cause she believed in. In the early hours of May 13, 1862, while the Confederate officers of the CSS Planter slept ashore in Charleston, South Carolina, an enslaved crewman named Robert Smalls set a daring plan into motion. Smalls, who had been forced to work on the ship, saw an opportunity not just for his own freedom, but for that of his family and fellow enslaved crewmen. He donned the captain's coat and hat, and using his knowledge of the harbor and the ship's signals, he expertly navigated the heavily armed vessel past Confederate checkpoints, even giving the correct steam whistle signals to pass Fort Sumter. Once clear of Confederate guns, he raised a white flag and surrendered the ship, its cargo of cannons, and its valuable code book to the awaiting Union blockade. The act was hailed in the North as one of the great heroic deeds of the war. Smalls had not only liberated 16 people, but he had also delivered a powerful military asset to the Union. He went on to serve as a pilot for the Union Navy, guiding ships in the very waters he had once navigated as a slave. After the war, his leadership continued. He returned to South Carolina, bought his former master's house, and entered politics. He served in the South Carolina state legislature and was eventually elected to 5 terms in the United States House of Representatives, where he fought for the rights of African Americans during the Reconstruction era. Robert Small's story is, honestly, a breathtaking saga of ingenuity, courage, and a lifelong commitment to freedom and equality. In an era when women were expected to be demure and confined to the domestic sphere, Dr. Mary Edwards Walker was a force of nature. She was a physician, an abolitionist, a suffragist, and a fierce advocate for dress reform, insisting on her right to wear men's clothing, which she found more practical. When the Civil War began, she volunteered for the Union Army, but was initially refused a commission as a medical officer because she was a woman. Undeterred, she served as an unpaid volunteer surgeon at the United States Patent Office Hospital in Washington, D.C., and later in the field near the front lines. Finally, in 1863, she was appointed as the first female United States Army surgeon. She served with incredible bravery, often crossing enemy lines to treat wounded civilians, which led to her capture by Confederate forces in 1864. She was held as a prisoner of war for 4 months before being released in a prisoner exchange. For her tireless and courageous service, President Andrew Johnson awarded her the Medal of Honor in 1865. She remains the only woman ever to receive the nation's highest military decoration. Later in life, her medal was rescinded during a 1917 review, but she refused to surrender it, wearing it every day until her death. Mary Edwards Walker was a trailblazer in every sense, a woman who refused to let society's rules define her or limit her ability to serve her country and fight for what she believed in. Her medal was rightfully restored in 1977. And there you have it. 10 incredible stories of 10 extraordinary Americans. From Sybil Ludington's midnight ride to Mary Edwards Walker's surgical tent, these are the tales that lie in the heart of the American experience, yet so often go untold. History, as we've seen today, is so much more than a collection of famous names and landmark dates. It is a living, breathing narrative shaped by the courage, sacrifice, and conviction of countless individuals. These unsung heroes remind us that greatness can be found anywhere, in a teenage girl on horseback, a lawman born into slavery, or a doctor who refused to be told no. Their legacies are a vital part of our shared heritage. Telling these stories is how we keep their spirits alive. It's how we honor their contributions and ensure that they finally receive the recognition they have long deserved. But this is just the beginning. History is filled with figures like these, waiting to be rediscovered. That's where you come in. Who are the forgotten heroes you admire? Whose story do you think the world needs to hear? Please, share their names and their legacies in the comments below. Let's create a space where these real-life legends can be celebrated by all of us, and continue this important conversation together. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the past. Learning about these heroes has been a profound experience for me, and I hope it has been for you as well. If you found these stories as moving and important as I did, please show your support by liking this video, leaving a comment with your thoughts, and subscribing to the channel for more explorations into the lives of the people who truly shaped our world. Until next time, remember that every story matters. Take care.